Hey guys, welcome to episode 17 of Short Bits by Shorty. I'm trying something a little different this time. Since he had a long set of lectures, I just wrote everything down first, and then I'm talking about it now. So now it's just straight talking, instead of, having that 5-second usual thing where I fast forward through my writing. So right now I'm just going to straight talk through this thing. If you have any thoughts about it, let me know through the poll EV, or through me personally, or through the comments on the YouTube video page. Other than that, let's get started. So first off, to start this off, just wanted to send you guys a reminder that Skate for the Cure, KE's annual fall fundraiser for their philanthropy to raise money for breast cancer, is on next Saturday, October 27th, from 5:45 p.m. to 8 p.m. It is at Skate Nation Plus. There will be raffles, games, what else will there be? Ice skating fun, and a costume contest. The best Disney on Ice costume wins a $50 Amazon gift card. So come out, have fun with KE, KY, PC, and your other classmates. And I won't be there because I'm working evening shift, but Sunny and a lot of other people will be there. So have fun for me, and let's get started. So opiates have the following actions. They reduce pain, of course. They cause sedation, euphoria, and they decrease anxiety and suffering. They suppress coughs. They can lead to tolerance and dependence. At high doses, they can lead to lethal respiratory depression. And they decrease gut motility and cause constipation. All the prototypes in this video, I will circle with the cloud, the green cloud. So look for the green cloud, that's your prototype. So let's see. So your agonist SARs, so like your morphines or codeines, follows the following descriptions. So here is the prototypical structure of morphine. It's in the cloud, the green cloud. Minus morphine is active, plus morphine is inactive. Note all your following positions in green. They'll be important for your SAR later. You have 3 position, your 6 position, 7, 8 position, 14 position, and your 17 position. And here's the structure of morphine in the 3 position, which I will explain why it's important later when I explain oxymorphone. So notice how, let's see, your nitrogen is here. This carbon bridge is actually twisted upside down. So this carbon bridge is twisted upside down. Your oxygen ring is here. Here's your 3 position, and your 6 position. Yeah. Okay. Let's see. So your SAR follows. I made a table for all your SAR. So let's see. Before I go over that, here is my reference structure of morphine, which I will use to demonstrate the SAR. Otherwise, here is the table. Okay. Okay. If you can't see it clearly through here, feel free to refer to the handout, which you can download. Let's see, in the YouTube video description, you can download the handout for this video and see this more clearly when you zoom in. So here's the table I made. It describes the position I'm referring to, the change in the position I'm referring to. So for example, if it changes from an OH to an OCH3, how that change affects the potency and why it affects the potency. So let's start with position 3. So let's see, if you start this off with an OH, and then, so I'll start from the top of the table and go down. So if you start with an OH, and you change it to an OCH3, that decreases potency. Because, I'm reading straight from the table, although the methyl group makes the OCH3 group more hydrophobic, remember that carbons make compounds more hydrophobic, which increases your blood-brain barrier penetration. The receptor actually needs the OH to bind. Therefore, changing the OCH3 blocks binding because the compound no longer has the OH, and the receptor prefers the OH to bind. So if you have the OCH3 instead of the OH, you have less binding because the receptor prefers the OH, and therefore you have less potency. At the 3 and the 6 position, of morphine, you normally have an OH. So let me draw that right now. 3 in the 6 position, you have your OH. And what if you change it to an ester? For example, in heroin, which I'll describe later. I'm just giving you an intro to everything I'm going to explain later. So if you change it to an ester at 3 position, it actually increases potency. Why? Because although the ester looks... So remember that I said that the OH is preferred for binding to the receptor. However, this is actually not an OH. This is actually not an OH. However, remember that esters are converted to OHs by plasma esterases. So this whole thing is converted in the plasma into an OH by plasma esterases. Additionally, the ester group is more hydrophobic than OH. Remember that adding carbons makes a compound more hydrophobic. Therefore, this allows the compound to penetrate the blood-brain barrier more easily, and therefore you have increased potency. So, esters have increased potency because, number 1, they're more hydrophobic. Remember, more carbons are more hydrophobic. Number 2, they're actually converted into OHs by plasma esterases. So, once they penetrate the blood-brain barrier, once this compound penetrates the blood-brain barrier, it's actually converted to the, which is, hold on, okay. So the process is OCH3. So here's your ester. So this is going to easily penetrate the blood-brain barrier because it's very hydrophobic. Remember that more carbons make a compound more hydrophobic. Now, once it is in your blood-brain barrier, it's going to be converted to through your esterases into your OH, which actually binds to the receptor. So compared to morphine, more of the ester compound penetrates the blood-brain barrier, so you have more in the brain compared to your standard morphine, which is just OH. Then it's going to be converted into the OH form by esterases, which actually binds to the receptor. So the esterases actually bind to the receptor because 1, more of it penetrates in the blood-brain barrier, and number 2, after it's converted into the OH form by the esterases in the brain, it actually binds to the receptor because it's converted to the OH form. Let's see. Let me erase this before I go on. So at the 6th position, okay, so I'll just keep that. Okay. Why is this erasing so slow? Okay, whatever. Okay, at the 6th position, if you change this OH to a ketone, so if it's changed to double bond O, ketones are actually more hydrophobic than alcohols. This allows for increased blood-brain barrier penetration, therefore you increase the potency. At the 7 and 8 position, so here and here, 7 and 8 position, saturation, so if you change from a double bond all the way to a single bond, you actually get increased potency because you remember that unsaturation or double bonds are actually more hydrophilic. So changing a compound from more hydrophilic to more hydrophobic by taking that double bond away allows for increased blood-brain barrier penetration, and therefore increased potency. At the 14 position, which is over here, if you add the OH here, you get increased potency. So this is where the 3 confirmation comes in. So if let's see, I guess I'll do that later. Okay. Anyways, so I'll explain it when I explain oxymorphone. So adding the OH there increases potency because the receptor actually prefers the OH binding. So if you have an OH at the 14 position, the receptor actually prefers that, and you increase binding. I'll explain. Even though it seems more hydrophilic, which I'll explain later. Adding the OH there increases potency because the receptor prefers binding through the OH, just like it prefers the OH at the 3 position for binding. At the 17 position, which is over here, if you demethylate it, or you take out this methyl group, you actually decrease potency. Because remember, less carbons means less hydrophobic, which means less blood-brain barrier penetration. 17 position, if you change the amine to an N oxide, it's actually inactive, because remember that the NO bond is actually charged. So you have a positive charge at the nitrogen, a negative charge at the oxygen. So if you have charged compounds, it's not even hydrophobic, and therefore it cannot cross the blood-brain barrier. The 17th position, if you have a quaternary amine, so an amine with 4 methyls attached to it, you're going to end up with a positive charge here. Right there. There's your positive charge. Remember, charged compounds cannot cross the blood-brain barrier, therefore it's inactive. 17th position, if you have a phenylethyl group, so here's your phenylethyl group. You have 1 carbon, 2 carbons. So here's your phenylethyl group. I actually copied and pasted this from Google. Here is your morphine structure. Here's your typical, here's your morphine structure, and here's your phenylethylamine. So phenylethylamine. So here's your phenylethyl group. So if you have a phenylethyl group, it's actually very active. Why? The receptor actually prefers this for binding. Also, more carbons means more hydrophobic, therefore more blood-brain barrier penetration. If you change this N nitrogen group to an allyl group, which is a CH2, which I'll show you later, it actually is not an agonist, it actually changes to an antagonist. IDKY, that's just how the receptor works. So here's a summary of all your SAR, which I'll go through right now and with the morphine derivatives. I just wanted to give you a table so you can study that summarizes everything in a nutshell. So let's see. Here's your morphine series. So I'll go through the morphine series first, then your codeine series. But I'll start off with your morphine series first, since pretty much the codeine series follows the same SAR. And yeah. Let's see. So I'll go over the metabolism first. Okay. So first off, here's your morphine. It can go through N-demethylation to demethylate or remove one of the methyl groups. So here's N-demethylation, and to lead to a morphine from a tertiary amine to a secondary amine. So it goes from 1 to 3 methyls to 1, 2 methyls. This is called normorphine. So any of your N-demethylation products start with nor. So nor means demethylate. Sorry, this iPad is slow for some reason. Nor means you didn't demethylate it. This is actually less active because remember, Less carbons means less hydrophobic, therefore less blood-brain barrier penetration. So the N-demethylation product is less active. You can also conjugate it at the 3 position. Conjugation is the umbrella term for sulfation and glucuronidation. So at the 3 position, you can undergo sulfation to produce a sulfate group here, or you can glucuronidate it at the 3 position to add the glucose or sugar here. The O-glu means glucuronidated oxygen. This is deactivated. Remember, I said earlier, so sulfation and glucuronidation products are at the 3 position are deactivated. Because remember, I said earlier that blocking the 3 position reduces activity. So because the receptor actually prefers the OH at the 3 position. So if you block it by adding a sulfate group or a glucuronidated group, you actually deactivate the compound. At the 6th position, you can only glucuronidate it, you can't sulfate it. So O-glu is your glucuronidated 6th position, and this is active. So in the morphine metabolism, all your compounds are active, except for your 3 position conjugated products. Because remember, the receptor prefers OH at 3 position. Let's see. So, I'm going to explain the SAR in terms of all the different structures for the morphine derivatives, and I'll explain how everything gets their name, which you can apply to the coding series. So, we'll start off with hydromorphone. Here's hydromorphone. It gets its name because "-one" means ketone. Here's your ketone at the 6th position. Morph means it's a morphine derivative, and hydro means you're adding hydrogens or you're saturating the double bond here. It's actually more potent than morphine. Why? Because remember, I said earlier that saturation increases potency. Adding ketones increases potency, and that's it. It follows the same metabolism as morphine, except it cannot undergo 6-glucuronidation. Why? Because remember, you need a hydroxyl to glucuronidate it. You cannot have a ketone to glucuronidate it, because let's see, if you refer to your over here, glucuronidation at the 6th position, you need the OH to be glucuronidated. However, hydromorphone does not have an OH, it has a ketone group over here. Therefore, you cannot glucuronidate it. However, you can still demethylate it and conjugate it at the 3 position. Oxymorphone, okay, this is where I explain why the 3D conformation is important. So oxymorphone, this is actually a prototype too. Morphone, "-one" refers to your ketone, morph refers to your morphine, oxy refers to the OH group, the oxy group at the 14th position. Why is this more potent than morphine? Because it has saturation, at the 7-8 position, which increases potency, the double bond O, the ketone at the 6th position, which increases potency, and the 14th position hydroxyl group, which increases potency, because remember, the receptor prefers the OH at the 14th position to bind. So, why is, even though it has the OH at the 14th position, which you would think is hydrophilic, which would decrease potency, why is it actually not as hydrophilic as you think? So here is hydromorphone in your 3D conformation. This where the ring is actually upside down and the OH actually points up. So in a regular molecule, in order for things to attract, for things like dissolve like to dissolve like to dissolve like, the OH molecule actually has to surround the molecule in order to dissolve it. So, in order to dissolve a molecule, the water molecules actually have to surround it completely. However, in this case, the OH molecules actually only surround the top part of the molecule. They can't actually get through the bottom, because if you actually look closely, this carbon ring, this ring of carbons right here is actually blocking access from the waters to get to the OH at top. So the only water molecules that can access this hydroxyl group here is the ones on top. Therefore, this molecule is actually not as hydrophilic. It actually doesn't dissolve in water as well as you would think. Therefore, the contribution to hydrophilicity or hydrophobicity is or the contribution of the molecule, the OH to the potency, is not actually due to the hydrophilicity, hydrophobicity. It's actually due to the receptor preferring the OH at the 14 position. So, next question. Does this molecule have 6-glucuronidation, and why? Or why not? It actually does not. Remember, you can't glucuronidate a ketone. You can only glucuronidate the hydroxyl group. So, just like hydromorphone, which has no 6-glucuronidation, oxymorphone has no 6-glucuronidation because it has the ketone and not the hydroxyl group. However, it can still undergo N-demethylation at the 17 position and conjugation at the 3 position. Heroin is your next prototype. Let's see. Remember, I said earlier in the table that adding the esters at the 3 position and the 6 position increased potency. So here's your esters at the 3 and the 6 position. Why? Because esters are more hydrophobic than alcohols, so they'll penetrate the blood-brain barrier easily. And so after they penetrate the blood-brain barrier, they're going to be acted on by plasma esterases to be converted into here's your reaction, into your OH groups, which will actually bind to the receptor. So, compared to morphine, more of the heroin, because of the more hydrophobic esters, will enter the blood-brain barrier, and after they're converted by esterases to the OHs, they will bind to the receptor. So, 3-acetylation, deacetylation, which means you're going to, at the 3 position, deacetylate or take out an acetyl group, this is an acetyl group, to lead the 6-acetylmorphine. So it's called 6-acetylmorphine because it has the acetyl, which is 2-carbon ester group, or acid group, at the 6th position. So 6-acetylmorphine refers to 6th position acetyl group on the morphine. Let's see. Your codeine series. Let's see. Codeine is also another prototype. Let's see. So the only difference between codeine and morphine is that at the 3 position, codeine has an OCH3 group, a methoxy group. Easy to remember because codeine is like morphine, except it has the co at the 3 position. So codeine is just 3-co-morphine. Here is your metabolism route. So unlike morphine, which has 3 metabolism routes, codeine actually has 2 metabolism routes. So one metabolism route is your O-demethylation, where you remove hold on. Oh yeah. So O-demethylation, so you're going to take off the co off codeine. So this co is going to be removed. This iPad is so slow today. This co is going to be removed to change to a hydroxyl group. That's O-demethylation. You can also undergo N-demethylation to remove, of course, one of the methyl groups on the nitrogen. So you go from a tertiary amine to a secondary amine. Let's see. So is codeine more potent or less potent than morphine? It is, ooh, hold on. This is awkward. I forgot the H right here. So it is actually. So is it more potent or less? Is codeine more potent or less potent than? Is codeine more or less potent than morphine? It is less potent than morphine. Why? Because remember, I said earlier that the 3 position prefers the hydroxyl group in order to bind to the receptor. Here, it's blocked by the the methoxy group. Therefore, it's less potent because it does not have the 3 position hydroxyl to bind to the receptor. Is codeine more or less potent than morphine in terms, or does codeine have more is codeine more orally active or less orally active than morphine, and why? It's actually more active orally because it has only 2 metabolism routes rather than 3 metabolism routes, or actually 4, like morphine. So morphine can be N-demethylated. Number 2, it can be conjugated to a sulfate 3 called glucuronidate at the 3 position, or 4, it can be glucuronidate at the 6 position. And remember that conjugation actually deactivates the morphine at the 3 position. However, codeine only has 2 metabolism routes. It can only go N-demethylation and O-demethylation. Therefore, it's more orally active than morphine because, number 1, it's actually more because it has less metabolism routes. It has less metabolism routes and does not lead to deactivated products like morphine does when it's conjugated at the 3 position. Cool. So the codeine series is pretty much, I'm not going to explain these because they're pretty much they follow the same SAR like the morphine series. However, they are all less potent than the corresponding morphines because remember, the OCH3 in the codeines, the CO in the codeine series makes the compounds less active than the morphine series. So adding your ketone at the 6th position makes it more active. Saturating the 7-8 double bond position makes it more active. Adding the 14 hydroxyl makes it more active. All for the same reasons as the SAR for morphines. It's just they're less potent because the codeine series is less potent because it has the methoxy in the codeine series, therefore decreasing binding because the receptor prefers the 3 position hydroxyl. They also follow the same naming series, so oxymorphone, oxycodone, hydrocodone follow the same naming as I described earlier with the morphine series. So one refers to your ketone, hydro refers to saturation, the 7-8 position, oxy refers to the 14 position hydroxyl. Okay, moving on to your antagonists. So these basically reverse the morphine effect. So they however, they can precipitate withdrawal symptoms. They can reverse respiratory depression. Some of these are, and some of these are not addictive. Let's see. The left side molecules are just for me to copy and paste because I'm lazy. We're also going to talk about your dual agonists. So these all start, in the names, they all start with NAL. I'll call these your NALs. So you're like your naltrexone, naloxone, nalbuphine. So antagonists and dual agonists are basically your NAL derivatives. Here's a little chart I made for you to describe if something's an agonist, dual agonist, or partial agonist, or an antagonist. So, at the 20 position, which, okay, maybe that's why I had this. Okay, so at this 20 position here, if you only have 1 or 2 carbons, it's an agonist. If you have 5 carbons at the 20 position, you're a dual agonist or you're a partial agonist. If you have 3 or 4 carbons at the 20 position, you're an antagonist. So I will illustrate everything over here. Let's see. So nalorphine is actually an antagonist because it has, here's your 20 position, you have 1, 2, 3 carbons. And remember, 3 carbons is your antagonist. Naloxone, it's actually an antagonist because here's your 20 position. So basically, a 20 position is the carbons attached to your nitrogens. It's the carbon attached to the amine group, the nitrogen group. So here's your 20 position attached to the nitrogen group. You have 1, 2, 3 carbons. That's your antagonist. Let's see. Oh yeah, naloxone. Why is this? Is this more potent or less potent than nalorphine? Which nalorphine is over here. It's actually more potent. Why? Because remember, ketones make the compounds more potent. So here's your ketone at the 6th position. Therefore, and it also has your 14 position hydroxyl. Therefore, it's more potent than the corresponding nalorphine. Nalorphine? Nalorphine. Let's see. Naltrexone is a prototype. I put it in the green cloud. It has your ketone at the 6th position, your 14 position hydroxyl, and based off the 20 position, which is the number of carbons, the carbons attached to the 17 position amine, the nitrogen, is this an agonist, antagonist, or a dual agonist? It's an antagonist because if you look here, it has 1, 2, 3, 4 carbons. 4 carbons are your antagonists. This has a long duration and a good oral bioavailability. FPO, F is your bioavailability, PO subscript is your oral. So it has naltrexone has a long duration and good oral bioavailability. Nalmefene. This is nalmefene. Let's see. Is this an antagonist, agonist, or dual partial agonist? It's an antagonist because here's your 20 position. Here's your 1, 2, 3, 4 carbons. 4 carbons are your antagonists. So yeah. So does it have a long half-life or a short half-life? And why? It has a short half-life because of this double bond CH2 group. So double bond CH2 groups are more reactive than double bond O groups. Therefore, they will react more they will undergo more reactions in the body or faster reactions in the body than your double bond, than your ketones. Therefore, they have shorter half-lives because they undergo more reactions and faster reactions than your ketones or your double bond O's. So, if you find a double bond CH2 at the double bond CH2, you typically reduce the half-life. Like over here. Oh, why is it so slow? Like over here and over here, your double bond carbon groups make the compound more reactive. So is it more potent or less potent than naltrexone, and why? It's actually more potent for this same group, the double bond CH2 group here. Because let's see. Turns out double bond CH2 groups are more hydrophobic than ketone groups. So this double bond CH2 group contributes to both the half-life and the potency. So this double bond CH2 at the 6th position actually decreases the half-life but increases the potency at the 6th position for the antagonist. It's an antagonist, remember I said, because it has 1, 2, 3, 4 carbons, which is antagonist. So here are your dualists, which I said have 5 carbons. Let's see. So at the 20 position, attached to the 17 position amine group, N group, nitrogen group, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 carbons. Over here, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 carbons. So these are dualists. So even though this molecule might look different than your traditional morphine structure or your traditional codeine structure, because it doesn't have your oxygen ring like over here, your ring like over here, it still has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 carbons attached to the nitrogen at the top. Therefore, it's a dualist. Chemists have come up with modifications of morphine to still produce analgesia without the addictive effects. So here I labeled your morphine rings A, B, C, D, E. So all your rings are labeled. Probably don't have to know the structure because none of these are prototypes, and they're not really based off. They're pretty hard to memorize. But here's the essential concepts. The E ring. Modifications to the E-ring have produced drugs like levorphanol and dextromethorphan, which is actually a cough suppressant. So the E-ring, changing the E-ring over here has produced levorphanol and dextromethorphan. At the C-ring over here, they've actually produced pentazocine. At the D-ring, changing the D-ring here, has created desocine. Changing the B ring over here has produced meperidine. Meperidine has no 3-hydroxyl group, notably. And changing meperidine has produced diphenoxylate, which is a component of top 300. Lamodal, right? I hope so. I'm not looking this up. Let's hope so. Changing meperidine to beer has also led to loperamide. Let's see. So diphenoxylate is shown here, and loperamide is shown here. The reason these don't have CNS effects is because of these bulky groups attached to the nitrogen over here and over here. So adding 2 bulky groups. So having groups that are actually too bulky actually stops its penetration into the blood-brain barrier because the cells cannot actually uptake these molecules because these molecules are actually too big. So these actually pass through this GI tract and have actions on there. And remember, morphine and its derivatives are actually cause constipation and decreased urinary motility. Therefore, since these cannot pass through the CNS, these actually pass through the GI tract, and therefore act on mu opioid receptors there, and cause constipation there, or they actually decrease constipation there. But yeah, they actually cause constipation. These are antidiarrheals. So diarrhea makes you poop it out, constipation makes you not poop it out. So these compounds pass through the GI tract and actually cause constipation at the mu opioid receptors in the GI tract. Not the CNS, because these are too bulky, therefore the cells cannot uptake them, because these are too big. So these pass through the GI tract and cause constipation, therefore they decrease anti-diarrhea. Cool, right? Cool how things work on a chemical level. Right? Anyways. Drugs that treat opioid-induced constipation include naloxegol, nalmefene, and methylnaltrexone, or MNTX. So further modification of meperidine has led to fentanyl, which is 100 times more potent than morphine. This is actually also a prototype because it's in the green cloud. It has a rapid onset and short duration. Your SAR follows the following. So your six-membered ring, your six-membered piperidine ring. If you remember from Glennon's class, this is a piperidine ring. It's a 6-carbon ring with 1 nitrogen to replace a carbon. So the 6-membered ring is actually preferred over the 5-membered ring or the 7-membered ring. Your phenylethyl group, remember earlier in the table I showed you what a phenylethyl group is? So here's your phenyl, and here's your ethyl group. So 1, 2 carbons is your ethyl group. So your phenylethyl group is preferred over your benzyl group, which is here, which is a 1 carbon and then a benzene ring, compared to 2 carbons and their benzene ring. So benzyl is 1 carbon and a benzene ring. A phenylethyl is 2 carbons and a benzene ring. And this is the phenylethyl is actually also preferred over the methyl group, which is here. So let me see. So here's your benzyl, and here's your methyl. So your phenylethyl is more active than your benzyl, your methyl, and your 6-member piperidine ring is more active than your 5-member ring or your 7-member ring. This group attached to the nitrogen, so your 6-membered ring within 1 nitrogen and a methyl and a methyl is actually more active than fentanyl itself. I would know what this structure looks like since it's part of the SAR. So in picture form, I'm giving you what he said in word form, and I'm giving it to you as a comparison chart. So adding this carbon here, these are all modifications of fentanyl. So here you have the phenylethyl group with a carbon here and a hydroxyl group here. This is actually the most potent. It's actually 25,000 times more potent than morphine. You have the ester group here. You have a double bond O, then an O, and here carbon group here attached to the piperidine ring. This is more potent. This is less potent than this one, but more potent than this one, which is actually the same one over here as over here, except it does not have this hydroxyl group here. So this is actually the same thing as this, except this does not have the hydroxyl group here. So the hydroxyl group is more potent than this ester group, which is more potent than no hydroxyl group, but it has a methyl, which is more potent than fentanyl itself. So fentanyl is less potent than adding a methyl to the phenylethyl group, which is less potent than this ester group, which is less potent than the phenylethyl group, but it has the methyl group and the hydroxyl group. Your fentanyl derivatives have shorter duration and variable potency. Let's see. Fentanyl can be derivatized to form methadone, which is also a prototype. So here's methadone, and here's fentanyl. The reason that they're pretty similar, or that they can be considered derivatives, is because let's see, the distance between in fentanyl from the tertiary amine all the way to the aromatic ring is actually the same distance from here all the way to this aromatic ring. So since they're pretty much the same size, they fit in the receptor in a similar manner, and therefore they're pretty much derivatives. So methadone is more longer acting than morphine. Its metabolism follows this scheme. So it can undergo, start from the top. Here's your methadone. It can undergo N-demethylation to remove this methyl group. Here, let's see. And once you remove the methyl group, these lone pairs on the nitrogen actually attack. They actually have room because if you look over here, there's not much room. The electrons are being blocked by all these carbons. However, over here, you actually have less carbons. Therefore, you have more room for the electrons in the nitrogen to attack the oxygen there. And then you actually form a ring. This actually closes up and forms a ring. This is actually inactive. This is a spontaneous reaction. So after demethylation, this automatically forms a ring spontaneously to form the inactive compound with the ring. Methadone can undergo alcohol dehydrogenase to change the ketone here to an alcohol over here. I wrote it out for you, ketone and alcohol. Alpha, if you go back, I remember I said that demethylated products have the nor prefix to it, so demethylation produces nor. So methadone undergoing demethylation changes the name to normethadone. The same way, the all refers to the alcohol. So alpha methadol refers to the alcohol over here. This is active. This can undergo demethylation to produce alpha nor, because it's demethylated, methadol. This is also active. This can also go another demethylation step because to form, let's see, to form di, because it's, come on, let's go. Where's the pointer? Sorry, the iPad's slow today for some reason. Oh, there it is. Oh, give me a second. Sorry. So yeah, it's di because it underwent demethylation twice. So it's di, nor, demethylation, methadol, the active. This is also active. So, in the methadone scheme of metabolism, the only inactive product is the cyclized product. The one that happens after it only undergoes demethylation. Otherwise, all the products are active. The only inactive one is the cyclized one, or the ring one here. Your derivatives are LAM and propoxyphene. LAM is shown here. It's long-acting because this cannot react with the lone pairs on the nitrogen. So let's see. This group over here actually does not react with the lone pairs on the nitrogen. Therefore, this cannot cyclize after it's demethylated. Therefore, it's long-acting. So cyclization is prevented in LAM. Finally, your last part are your endogenous polyopioid peptides. So I just copied and pasted the slides here because they're pretty much self-explanatory. I'm just going to run through them really quickly. Or, actually, also I didn't feel like writing it because it's a lot of writing. If you look at all these amino acids I have to write, that's a lot. Okay, let's see. So, in essence, your body produces endogenous peptides to reduce pain sensations. For example, when you cut your hand, not excessively like a paper cut, it helps stop pain stimulation. Your families of opioid peptides have this same motif or the same pattern. So they're peptides. So remember, peptides have your N-terminus and your C-terminus, where you have a nitrogen at the terminus and your carbon at the terminus. They follow the same. They have the same motif. They start with they have tyrosine, glycine, glycine, phenylalanine. Tyrosine, glycine, glycine, phenylalanine. Tyrosine, glycine, glycine, phenylalanine. Tyrosine, glycine, glycine, phenylalanine. Hopefully, if I say this enough, you'll memorize it. Say it with me. Tyrosine, glycine, glycine, phenylalanine. Tyrosine, glycine, glycine, phenylalanine. One more time. Say it with me. Tyrosine, glycine, glycine, phenylalanine. Tyrosine, glycine, glycine, phenylalanine. Tyrosine, glycine, glycine, phenylalanine. Say it in your sleep. Tyrosine, glycine, glycine, phenylalanine. Say it while you eat. Tyrosine, glycine, glycine, phenylalanine. One more time. Tyrosine, glycine, glycine, phenylalanine. If you say things enough time, it becomes annoying, but it's stuck in your head. Like a bad song that's stuck in your head. Like Call Me Maybe. Or Friday, Friday, Friday. If you hear it enough times, it gets annoying and stuck in your head. Let's see. So, your enkephalins. This is actually your prototype. Let me put it in green for you. Prototype. So, there are two types of enkephalins. Your met enkephalin and your lu enkephalin. They're termed so because they have, in between your N-terminus and your C-terminus, you have your tyrosine, glycine, phenylalanine. They have your met enkephalins, have your met. Lu enkephalins have your lu. After your tyrosine, glycine, phenylalanine. Let's see. They have short duration, less effective than morphine as CNS analgesics. Let's see. Enzymes break this down at the tyrosine glycine part. So they're deactivated at the tyrosine glycine group, at the tyrosine glycine site. Let's put it in red. Naloxone can reverse the effects because naloxone is an opiate antagonist. Okay, so here's your SAR. I'll go through it from left to right. So your primary means, which over here are good, it's a primary mean. Your, let's see, tertiary means are not any good. So if you have a carbon like that, it's a no good. Your hydroxyl group here is essential, therefore tyrosine is essential. D-tyrosine is inactive, however L-tyrosine is active. So L-tyrosine is active, D-tyrosine is inactive. Here you have your glycine group. D-alanine is okay, but it also increases enzyme resistance. So if you have us waiting for my pen to load, if you have, sorry, the iPad is slow today. You have a CH3 group attached over here at the CH2 group, the glycine group. This makes it D-alanine, which is good, which is acceptable, and it also increases enzyme resistance. Let's see. Here's another glycine group. However, at this glycine, you cannot change it. It's very critical. So you cannot put a D-alanine there or else you won't get any activity. Let's see. Here, your phenylalanine is pretty stringent. You need your phenylalanine. You need your phenylalanine over here. Oh, that's awkward. Oh, sorry, my pen is weird today. You need your phenylalanine. If you have knockoff Berkel, remember your knockoff Berkel are your electron withdrawing groups. If you have knockoff Berkel on the ring, so nitrogen, bromine, chlorine. If you have knockoff Berkel on the phenylalanine ring, you still have activity. However, if you have an electron donating group like NH2 or OH, so if you have NH2 or OH on the ring, then you have no activity. So you need knockoff Berkel on the ring. The methionine group, which is here, you can have pretty much any change on it. May vary. Over here, you can add a methyl group to make it 1, 2, 3 tertiary amine. You can add a methyl group here to make it a tertiary amine. So from left to right, to review again, primary amines are good, tertiary amines over here are not good. You need your OH, therefore you need a tyrosine here, because tyrosine is an amino acid that has an OH. L-tyrosine is active, whereas D-tyrosine is not active. Here's your glycine group. So, hold on, big picture. So let's look at it from a big picture. So, remember I said what are your 4 amino acids that you need that I said annoyingly? Tyrosine, glycine, phenylalanine. So here's your tyrosine, glycine, phenylalanine. I didn't lie. That was actually necessary, because here's your SAR. So, tyrosine, you're going to use your OH to bind to the receptor, therefore it's essential. L-tyrosine is active, whereas D-tyrosine is not active. Glycine group, you can have an alanine by adding a methyl group. This is okay, and it also increases enzyme resistance. Your next glycine group, you cannot change this glycine group, otherwise you won't get activity. You can add a methyl group on this amine group. At your phenylalanine group, you need your phenylalanine. You need this phenyl group. Adding knockoff Berkel or your electron withdrawing groups and NO2, bromine, or chlorine is good. However, inactive is adding electron donating group, which is NH2 and OH. This methionine group over here may vary. So let's apply this SAR to a real molecule. Damn, Daniel. Let's see. So here is your. Okay, what are your 4 amino acids you need? Tyrosine, glycine, phenylalanine. So, let's see. You have your primary amine here, which is good. Your tyrosine here. You have your OH, which is good. Remember, you need your L-tyrosine, not your D-tyrosine. You have your alanine, D-alanine group. So at your glycine group, you have a methyl. So at your regular glycine group, you have a methyl group here, which makes a D-alanine. Okay, let's let my pen load. Like always, this is so stupid. I hate this iPad. It's from 2012. Okay. Okay, so D-alanine. So this is actually D-alanine, not glycine, but it's alanine now, because it has a methyl group attached. This actually increases enzyme resistance. Here is your next glycine. Oh, waiting for the pointer. Here is your next glycine group. Okay, come on. Here's your next glycine group. And remember I said you can add a methyl group to the nitrogen. That's still okay. Phenylalanine group, there's no knockoff Berkel, which is still okay, and there's no NH2 or OH, which are electron donating, which is very okay. And here's your methionine group, which has a modification by the S to an O. Let's see. Almost done. Your endorphins. These are biosynthesized. Hold on. So let's see. Tyrosine. Here's your 4 amino acids: tyrosine, glycine, phenylalanine. This one is your This one is tyrosine, glycine, phenylalanine attached to a methionine, sequenced to 26 amino acids. This is biosynthesized from lipotropin, which is 91 amino acids. This is pretty much the same as your metenkephalin. So metenkephalin is your enkephalin, which is tyrosine, glycine, phenylalanine, and your methionine group attached. These are more potent, however, than your metenkephalins, and these are more stable to enzymes with longer action times, similar SAR to enkephalins. Let's see. Dynorphins, remember, dynorphins attached to your kappa opioid receptor. It has your tyrosine, glycine, phenylalanine. And it has your leucine, unlike your methionine. This sequence, he spelled this wrong. Wow. Sequence to 12 amino acids. These are very high potency, and these are, he spelled stable wrong too. Oh, Dr. Chang's getting tired. More stable to enzymes, and they're longer acting. So, this last slide just illustrates why these compounds, why these opiates are designed so. So these all bind to the opioid receptors, either mu, delta, or kappa. What is that button? I don't know what I just pressed. Okay. So if you compare these structures, these compounds actually bind similarly to your endogenous opioids, which is why they work similarly. So your tyrosine is actually mimicked by this OH group. And you have your, let's see, I think, yeah, this tyrosine is actually mimicked by this OH group. And you have your bunch of nitrogens. So the distance between this hydroxyl, waiting for the pen, this hydroxyl and this nitrogen, distance between them is actually the same as this hydroxyl and one of these nitrogens over here, which is how it fits in the this morphine fits in the receptor. Let's see, distance between this aromatic ring and this aromatic ring is actually the same distance as this aromatic ring and this aromatic ring, and this, which is why it fits in the receptor the same way and activates the receptor in the same way. This ketone is actually mimicked by this hydroxyl group here, and this nitrogen is and these nitrogens are mimicked distance-wise, because this actually shortens the distance. So this distance between the two nitrogens is actually mimicked by nitrogen here and over here. So the molecules act the same way as your endogenous peptides because they actually fit into the receptor, in summary, the same way that your endogenous peptides do in the mu opioid receptor, delta opioid receptor, and the kappa opioid receptor. So let us review everything real quick. So in a nutshell, let's review. Remember to come out to Escape for the Cure, raise money for breast cancer, and have fun with your classmates and other people in school. Let's see. Y'all know what opioids do. Know your 3 positions, 6 positions, 7, 8 positions, 14 position, and 17 position. If you remember the song from SpongeBob, it's Finding Nemo, the song where the manatee, the teacher, the manatee sings that song. I just sang the same tune, except the numbers. 3 position, 6 position, 7, 8 position, 14 position, 17 position. Sorry, I love Finding Nemo. Minus morphine is more active, plus morphine is inactive. So here's your SAR in a nutshell. If you have any questions, let me know. Your morphine series, your metabolism follows this scheme, where you demethylate it, conjugate it at the 3 position, or you glucuronidate it at the 6 position. Conjugation at the 3 position deactivates the molecules, whereas any other metabolism routes either keeps the molecule active or decreases activity. Nor, as a prefix, refers to demethylated products. Let's see. Adding a ketone at the 6th position removes the 6th position metabolism, the 6th glucuronidation. Let's see. Oxymorphone is actually not as hydrophilic as you think because the water molecules cannot go from the bottom to the top to attack or surround this hydroxyl group. So it's not actually as hydrophilic as you think. However, it has the 6th position ketone, which increases potency, 7, 8 saturation, which increases potency, 14 position hydroxylation, which increases potency. Yeah. Let's see. Heroin can be deacylated, or you can remove the ester group at the 3 position to produce a molecule with just one acyl group, or acetyl group, which is the 6th acetyl morphine. Your codeine series follows the same SAR as your morphine series, and the same naming convention, like oxymorphone, oxycodone, hydromorphone, hydrocodone. Let's see. It only has 2 metabolism routes, and none of them produce deactivated products. Therefore, these are more orally active. You can undergo O-demethylation or N-demethylation. These are actually less potent because remember, the receptor prefers the 3 position hydroxyl for binding. These don't. The codeines don't. They have the COs, which are OCH3, the methoxy groups. Your antagonists and your dual agonists are your NALs. 1, 2 carbons to the 20 position, or the after the 7th position nitrogen. Are your agonists Your 5 carbons are your dual or your partial agonist, and your 3 carbons or your 4 carbons are your antagonists. Naltrexone is your prototype. Remember, adding a double bond CH2 at the 6th position decreases half-life but increases potency. Morphine can be derivatized by changing any of these rings. Meperidine can be derivatized from diphenoxylate or loperamide. These cannot cross the blood-brain barrier because they're too big, because of the big bulky groups. Therefore, they act on the GI opioid receptors to produce constipation, aka anti-diarrheal effects, with no CNS effects because they don't cross the blood-brain barrier. Opioid-induced constipation can be cured by or treated by methyl naltrexone, naloxegol, and naldemidine. Further modification of meperidine can lead to fentanyl, which is actually 100 times more potent than morphine, has a rapid onset, short duration. Your SAR, you need a 6-membered ring, which is preferred over your 5 or 7-membered ring. Your phenylethyl group is preferred over your benzyl or your methyl groups. This special group right here is active, is actually more active than fentanyl. Fentanyl is actually less potent than your phenylethyl with just the methyl, the ester group, and the phenylethyl with the hydroxyl. Your derivatives of fentanyl are have shorter duration and variable potency. Your fentanyl derivative is your methadone, which is also another prototype. This is longer acting than morphine. This easy way to remember it is actually has 2 separated rings. It's actually the distance, the way it works the same way as fentanyl. It fits in the same receptor as fentanyl because the distance between this aromatic group and the nitrogen is actually the same distance between the aromatic group and the nitrogen. It's longer acting than morphine. The metabolism scheme, it can undergo demethylation and alcohol dehydrogenation and then demethylation. The only inactive product is straight up demethylation because this cyclization here, the lone pairs of nitrogen attack the oxygen to form the cyclized product here, which is inactive. Your derivatives include lamin propoxyphene. This is actually longer acting because this group, I'm waiting for my pointer because this group, the group with the oxygens, cannot be attacked by the lone pairs of the nitrogen. Whatever, I just don't even wait for the pointer anymore. Let's see, waiting to go down the page. Endogenous opioid peptides. These are endogenously produced to reduce pain sensation. Remember, these have the 4 essential amino acids: tyrosine, glycine, phenylalanine. Your enkephalins are your SAR. You have metenkephalins or your leukenkephalins. They have short duration, less effective. They are deactivated by cleavage at the tyrosine glycine site. Oh, now the pointer works. Thanks for nothing. Here's your SAR of your metenkephalins. Your primary amines are good, tertiary amines are bad. Your L-tyrosine is active, and essential D-tyrosine is inactive. You can add a methyl group at the glycine, and you still get activity, and you increase enzyme resistance. Because remember, your enzymes cut between your tyrosine and your glycine residue. Therefore, adding this methyl group decreases enzyme activity, enzyme cleavage, because the cleaving enzyme cannot fit well to attack here because it's blocked by this methyl group. Glycine is essential. Phenylalanine is essential. Adding a knockoff Burkle here still has activity. However, adding a electron donating group here is not good for activity. Adding a methyl group is good here, can be good here, and this methionine group may vary. Going down on the page, this follows the same SAR as I described earlier. Come on. Let's go. I got dinner to eat. Your endorphins. Pretty self-explanatory. And your dynorphins. Pretty self-explanatory. Dynorphins bind to your kappa opioid receptor. Let's see. And your endorphins have a similar SAR to your enkephalins. So the reason that opiates work is because they actually fit into the receptor the same way that your endogenous opioids work. Endogenous opioid peptides work. So, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, positive feedback, constructive feedback, feel free to leave it at pollev.com/CHRISTIANRUI629. And I will happily look at it and address it like I always have been. So, that's it. Good luck with the test. That's it for actually your neuro. So, I'm done making these for neuro. See y'all in HEMOC. Good luck with the exam.